to be found.
The emperor broadcasts an impassioned plea to the outside world to save Ethiopia from Italian conquest. The president of the Ethiopian parliament speaks, and an American radio man introduces the emperor especially to America.
Hello, America. This is Addis Ababa.
Qu'il souhaite ardemment et qu'il leur est indispensable.
He defends his country's cause, calls upon the world to stop the war, and declares that Ethiopia is firmly for peace.
De l'an passé, le peuple éthiopien est fermement attaché à la paix, mais il est en même temps...
A nation praying for peace but ready to fight to the last. Rome deciding war. The League of Nations preparing to impose penalties. The clash of arms, the thunders of battle seem more terrifying, as at the radio station of Addis Ababa, the Emperor Haile Selassie pleads for peace.
Il assiste dans leur effort pour le maintien de la
Beaten in the last battle, abandoned by the League of Nations, the emperor had retreated through deserted towns and villages towards Addis Ababa. Though the Italians were closing in behind him, he stopped for 2 days to fast and pray on his knees in the monolithic church of Lalibela. Haile Selassie planned to move to the hills and fight a guerrilla campaign, but his chiefs and advisors knew their broken armies could not fight on. They persuaded the emperor to leave Ethiopia. On May the 2nd, the imperial family left by train for Djibouti, en route for Palestine, and exile in London.
A gentle monarch was driven out of a land which, in the words of Winston Churchill, no conqueror in 4,000 years ever thought worthwhile to subdue. Emperor Selassie and his 2 sons were forced to flee before the Italians marched on his capital, Addis Ababa. About 700,000 Ethiopians were killed, about 2,000 Italians died. On May 9, 1936, Mussolini declared in Rome that Ethiopia now belonged to Italy. It was Mussolini's first conquest. It was also an early warning of fascist intentions, and America ignored the cry.
It was held by Franklin Roosevelt that eventually Il Duce would restore democratic processes and parliamentary forms of government, so that our support for fascism was based on, I think, 2 fallacies. One was that fascism is the answer to communism, and secondly, fascism is a transitory episode that will eventually result in the restoration of democratic forms of government. Now, neither of these 2 assumptions proved to be the case.
Selassie was granted exile in the guilt-ridden but generous England. However, he demanded the opportunity to address the League of Nations as soon as possible, hoping to salvage at least his self-respect.
The League of Nations, a grave disturbance. Today, Haile Selassie comes to plead for his lost empire. He wants them to make Mussolini give up Ethiopia. The Geneva crowds are for him, but the exiled emperor will need his imperturbable dignity before the day is over. British Foreign Minister Eden, Soviet delegate Litvinov on the left, and French Premier Blum and all the statesmen, instead of helping Haile Selassie, have decided to lift the sanctions against Italy.
The embarrassed League had no choice but to give him the podium. Italian journalists heaped upon him the final and most humiliating
for an outbreak
indignity.
against the emperor whose country their country has taken, waiting for his first words. Trying to quell the disturbance, lights turned out. Again, lights out. The disturbers ejected, arrested, and he is able to make his appeal.
Selassie continued, and he said this: "It is international morality that is at stake. Apart from the kingdom of the Lord, there is not on this earth any nation which is superior to any other. It is us today, it will be you tomorrow." The wisdom and prophetic nature of Haile Selassie's speech at the League of Nations went unheeded. The world listened but did nothing, paralyzed by insecurity and fear of fascist military strength. By turning our backs on the Abyssinian War, the United States refused to face the fact that Mussolini's takeover of the primitive African nation was no different from traditional European colonization. Our reluctance to strongly oppose outright aggression in '35, simply because an ocean separated us, was a policy that gratified both Hitler and Mussolini, as well as American pacifists and isolationists. The Neutrality Act of 1935, which prohibited the shipment of arms to belligerents, helped assure the victory of Italy's well-equipped modern army. The ease with which Italy overpowered Ethiopia was a signal to fascist dictators that democratic nations would not resist their urge for conquest with anything but words. Ethiopia set the stage for European conquest.
Your Imperial Majesty, are there any incidents in your life which stand in your memory as times when faith in Christ sustained you?
There are many instances in my life where the belief in the Almighty and the Christian faith has sustained me times of trouble and difficulties. No matter what may befall a human being, he can always succeed in overcoming it in time if he has the strength of faith and praise to God. For inevitably, he comes to the assistance of those that believe in him and those that through their work live an exemplary life. This goes not only for Christians in my view, but for all men. I think God commiserates with those that find themselves in misfortune. In particular, when my country Ethiopia was invaded by alien forces several years ago, I was sustained in that period by my faith in God and in the abiding belief that justice, however it may take time, will ultimately prevail. If I did not have faith in the Almighty and in His righteousness and that justice inevitably prevails, then I would have lost hope, and that thus the interest of my country would have been ignored. Because I attempted to maintain my faith in Him, and because all Ethiopians maintained their faith in the ultimate goodness of the world and in the grand design that the Almighty has for all men in the world, we were able to victoriously re-enter our country and rid ourselves of evil forces. If I did not have in my heart the love of God, I don't think I would have acted in a manner that I did. The love of God brings a sense of religiousness in human being. It gives him comfort for the future and assurance that right causes will ultimately prevail.
This is the great seal of the realm. Around in amharic letters are the titles of imperial authority. Haile Selassie I, King of the kings of Ethiopia, elect of God, the Lion of Judah has conquered. It is the proof that the emperor, the seed of Solomon and of Sheba, has returned to take up his whole people in his hand. The Emperor Haile Selassie has crossed the great trench of the Blue Nile with 2 regular battalions of Sudanese and Ethiopians, with a cloud of patriots on either flank, with British officers whose daring ranks with that of Lawrence. Without one piece of artillery or one tank, he has defeated and demoralized the 30,000 Italian troops who held the western province of Gojam. He is 100 miles from Addis Ababa, into which the victorious army of General Cunningham has driven. The emperor has come to feature. He is near Debre Libanos, one of the holy places of central Ethiopia, where the Italians in 1937 machine-gunned to death 400 Ethiopian monks and chucked them into a common grave, where also his cousins, the sons of his principal Ras, Kassa, were executed by the Italians in the same year. His field commander is at his right hand, and on his left is the new British commander of his bodyguard. This is the heart of Christian Ethiopia, that island of Christianity, as the Emperor Menelik expressed it, in a sea of paganism for 1,500 years. And the Emperor, installed upon his throne, is head of the Ethiopian Coptic Church and superintends its ritual. Not greatly like our Christianity, you may say. The priests wear turbans and process under umbrellas with their silver-topped dancing sticks in their hands and their silver musical instruments that tap out the harsh refrain of the Coptic psalms. The Psalms of David, the music and the rhythm of David himself as he danced before the Ark of the Covenant. These are as much a part of the Ethiopian Church as is the New Testament. A touch of the modern world. An English wireless operator takes down a message from the British command in Addis Ababa. It's an important message. It means the collapse of the Italian resistance in Ethiopia. It's good news to the head of the British military mission to Abyssinia, who at nearly 60 years of age entered Abyssinia almost single-handed in August 1940, and hunted by the Italians laid all the staff work for the revolt. Meanwhile, Ras Ababa rides at the head of his army to join his emperor. Dessier has fallen. The Duke of Aosta is in flight. We have captured more than 40 boxes of his personal baggage. Italian prestige will never stand up to this shock at the top. And so the road to Addis Ababa is open, except for a demoralized force of Italians in the valley ahead that the emperor and his commander in the field will have to bypass or drive through. From Addis Ababa comes General Cunningham, brother of the officer commanding the Mediterranean fleet, who by his staggering advance from Kenya to Mogadishu, Mogadishu to Harar, Harar to Addis Ababa, has set up new records in military speed and has shattered armies numerically 3 times as strong as his own. This is the first time that the emperor and the general have met, and it is the first junction of the forces from the Sudan and from Kenya. At the palace steps, a guard of honor from the Nigerian regiment awaits the emperor, and General Cunningham is there with the officers of his military administration. That with the fire of the patriots won this war, meet together on the palace steps of Addis Ababa, while 30,000 Abyssinians cram the streets outside, shouting and throwing flowers, kissing the ground, waving the Abyssinian flag. To them, the emperor says, "Be Christian and kind-hearted to our defeated enemy, the Italians, and do not treat him as he treated you." So, in 5 years, the whirligig of time, often slow in motion, has brought its full revenge. Yet was revenge the word? The Italians are safe. No one molests them. All the world disregards them. Somehow or other, the Ethiopians push the horrible memory of the 9,000 massacred in February 1937 to the back of their minds. The whirligig of time has brought its justice rather than its revenge. The so-called barbarians, the cruel people of Italian legend, has taught the so-called civilized fascist a lesson in forbearance, decency, and dignity. At his palace, the emperor receives the patriot troops of Ras Ababa Aragan, who boast before him in the customary cocklock fukara of the Ethiopian fighting man. Each and all want to tell the emperor of his glorious deeds. How many Italian officers he killed, how many machine guns he took single-handed, how he is his emperor's devoted servant, to be sent to fight the battles of Ethiopia wherever his emperor desires. Then there is the quiet, serious voice of Ababa Aragai. Your Majesty, I never hoped to see the sun of your face again in Ethiopia. I never dreamed that I would once more be happy. I was only determined to fight until I died for our independence, for our flag, for our Christian religion, and for you, my king. England and Ethiopia have a common link in St. George. He is their patron saint as well as ours. 5 years ago, as the black shirts marched into Addis Ababa, the priests of the Coptic cathedral smuggled out of the town the Ark of the Covenant of St. George. It is a famous ark throughout Ethiopia. It is the ark of the national consciousness and of self-defense against aggression. It was with Menelik when he defeated the Italians at Adwa in 1896. It was with Ras Ababa Aragai throughout the Italian occupation. On a cold morning in Addis Ababa, it came back to the cathedral with the emperor and was put once more with hymns and sacred dance in the Holy of Holies. It was a cold morning, and it rained, but a right was restored on that day, and the chains were struck off the wrists of a whole people.
It is good that you are here to record this picture of me in my palace garden at Addis Ababa. People who see this throughout the world will realize that even in the 20th century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath.
No love to be found. War is not the answer, only love can conquer. Please take me higher, higher, to lift me in higher ground. Take the love and not the war. There is no love, no love, no love to be found. So war is ugly, love is lovely. Take me higher, higher, to lift me in higher ground. And this is love and you'll be double, double lovely. The works of the Lord is perfect, and the coming of the judgment soon. Said him not coming on no April, not coming on no June. Come like no madman in a no full moon. Him not come on TV like no cartoon. But they coming at the judgment soon. Tell them that they coming after judgment soon. Make case and no go on like no goon. Cause they coming at the judgment soon. There is no love, no love, no love to be found. So you should make a love and not a war. Please take me higher, higher, to lift me in higher ground. God love is love and love is lovely. There is no